If you have a domestic violence restraining order hearing coming up, you may be wondering what to expect that day. If that's the case, you are in luck because I will be explaining exactly that as well as throwing in some tips during this video. My name is Veronica. I am a criminal defense and domestic violence restraining order attorney, and I help people put their cases behind them so that they can enjoy their lives and their freedom. And I am also the creator of a course called Defeat the DVRO. You can find a link to your first class down below in the description box. So especially if you are considering representing yourself as the respondent, take advantage of it, take the free class. All right, so let's get into this. What should you expect the day of your restraining order hearing? So first of all, big tip that I learned when I was first an attorney trying to navigate downtown Los Angeles is figure out where you're going to park ahead of time, especially if you're in a major metropolitan area. There are some courthouses that do have their own parking, but many don't. You want to make sure that you have cash with you in case it's cash only or the credit card machine is broken. Just prepare for all of that ahead of time, because the last thing you want to be doing is showing up at the courthouse thinking that you're ready and then being like, where the heck am I supposed to park? Now, make sure that you arrive at least 30 minutes early for your hearing. 30 minutes is actually not early, because going to court is not like going to a normal office building or any other establishment, except for maybe the airport, because you have to go through security. And sometimes the line is extremely long. So you want to make sure that you get there really early so that you can go through the line. Now, I will give you another tip. Don't be late, but if you are running late, then you need to go to your courthouse's website, find out which department you're supposed to be in, and call the number for that department and tell them that you're running late. Let them know you're outside, you're in line, and it will be okay. All right, so once you get past security, you are going to find your courtroom. Check for a list outside of the courtroom. There might be a bulletin board or just taped up to the left or to the right of the door. There might be a list there. Not always. Every courthouse is different. Some courtrooms might not have it, especially if you're there super early. But if there is one, go and check it. Find your case. Look to the left of your case, and there's going to be a number. Not your super long case number. It will start with, the first one on the list will be 1. You may be asked that by the bailiff. You may be asked that by the clerk. So look, find that number. Now, you may see that there are like 30 cases on there, and you are number 2. So you might be thinking, perfect, I'll get out of here pretty early. That may not be the case. In most courtrooms, they call the really short things first, and then the longer cases, you end up there into the afternoon. So you want to make sure that you are planning to spend the whole day there, because it really may be necessary, especially for restraining orders. When they tell you be there at 8:30, yeah, they're telling like 30 other people or 30 other cases, so maybe 60 other people, maybe more with witnesses, to be there at 8:30. Maybe one gets called at 8:30 at the very most, because usually it will take a little while for everybody to check in and the court to actually start calling the cases. If you are the respondent, especially, once you have looked for the list, found your number, or there is no list, find a seat away from the petitioner. If you are the person responding to the restraining order, by the way, you are the respondent. If you are the one who filed the petition, you are the petitioner. So if you're defending against one of these things, you're the respondent. Anyway, stay far away from the petitioner. You wouldn't believe the amount of incidents that occur in the hallway that people are telling the judge about or the bailiff about. Just don't put yourself in a position to even be accused of anything. Don't give the petitioner the stink eye. If the petitioner has witnesses, just keep clear of them as much as you possibly can. Now, the bailiff is going to give you instructions. Remember how I said every courtroom is different? So the bailiff is going to give you instructions on that particular courtroom's procedure for checking in. Sometimes you will have to write down your name on a list. Sometimes you go up and you talk to the clerk. Sometimes there will be some additional procedure, like there might be a commissioner instead of a judge, and you have to sign something for that, or you get moved to another courtroom. So just follow whatever the bailiff says. And one thing that's really important to keep in mind is that the bailiff, the clerk of the court, the court reporter, the judge, everybody who is in the courtroom, they're all co-workers. They're probably friends. They're in there all the time, and they are talking about people who do unusual or rude things. Now, they themselves may act unusual or rude to you. In fact, it's very frequent that the bailiffs or the clerks will be rude to you. Do not react. You need to stay calm no matter what, because if you are rude back to them, it's only going to look bad for you. The judge will find out, and it's just going to look bad for you. So no matter what, just maintain a calm demeanor. Be so polite to everyone. Now, prior to COVID, everyone who had a case would be able to sit in the courtroom. It would be really crowded, but everybody would sit in there and you would just wait until your case is called. Now, we're sort of post-COVID, depending which courtroom you're in. So sometimes they'll have you waiting in the hallway. Sometimes they'll have you come into the courtroom. If they have you waiting in the hallway, someone will come and get you when it's time for your case to be called. So just wait there patiently. It may be a really long time. Don't ask the bailiff how much longer. Just patiently wait. Now, when your case is called, go up to the tables. In front of the judge's bench, there are going to be 2 tables. In restraining order courtrooms, at least every single one that I've seen throughout the state of California, there are going to be labels on them, like name tags. One will say petitioner, one will say respondent. If you're the petitioner, the one who filed this thing, go to that table. If you're the respondent, go to that table. The clerk will swear you in, so the clerk will have you raise your right hand and agree that you're going to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God, and you will say, I do. Now, once the proceeding begins, the petitioner, or the judge is going to tell the petitioner, present your case, or petitioner, go ahead. And the petitioner will go first. If they don't have an attorney, they will just have to present their evidence in the form of a narrative. So they'll say, pretty much as they did in their request for a restraining order, hey, this is the abuse that occurred, here's the proof that I have, and here's why I want a restraining order. If they have, and after they present their case, you will have the chance to ask them questions. If you have questions prepared in advance, which again, I teach you in my course, if you have questions prepared in advance, then ask them. Do not attempt to, on the fly, come up with questions, especially if you don't have any proof to back it up. If you're not prepared to ask questions, then I suggest not even asking any questions. Just address the issues that are untrue in your own testimony. The petitioner's witnesses will go next after each witness presents their side. Then you will get to ask questions. After all the petitioner's witnesses go, now it's your turn to present your case. You're probably going to be pretty riled up at that point, right? You've just heard terrible things about you, probably some lies about you, and you're probably not going to be that happy. But make sure that you maintain a calm demeanor, present your case, present your evidence, and call your witnesses. And again, easier said than done, especially when I'm kind of summarizing it like that. But in my course, I do explain the best ways to do all of that. After you are done, then it's time for closing arguments. Now, sometimes the judge will not ask if there are any closing arguments, or sometimes the judge will just ask, does anybody want to be heard? Petitioner, would you like to be heard? Respondent, do you have anything else? If you have a closing argument prepared, then that is the time to give the closing argument. If you are going to attempt to do it on the fly, I've never seen it done successfully by someone doing it on the fly who's representing themselves. So I recommend not doing that. I, as an attorney, I've been doing this for over 10 years now. Even I write out notes. I have a format that I use for my closing arguments, but even I write out notes ahead of time. I wouldn't want to just stand up there and say the first thing that comes to my head. And if it were my own personal case and it was somebody filing a restraining order against me and I was upset, there's no way I would do that. So either prepare it in advance, know what you're going to say, make sure it's good, or just don't do it at all. The judge will then make their decision. Now, sometimes judges do take time to make their decisions, but typically for restraining orders, they're going to tell you right there exactly what they decide. No matter what the judge does, if the judge decides against you, stay calm. If the judge decides for you, stay calm. Don't think that this is the last time that you're going to see this judge and just go ahead and burn your bridge. If you have issues related to custody, for example, you might end up in front of this judge again. You don't know, so make sure that you absolutely do not burn that bridge. Just remain calm, remain respectful. Now, if you lose the restraining order hearing, you'll be asked to stick around and wait for a copy of the new order, the extended or what's called permanent domestic violence restraining order. So if that happens, stick around, follow their instructions, be respectful, no matter what. But if you won the restraining order hearing, what I would suggest, so the restraining order only goes until the actual hearing. But if you're thinking, okay, I want to go pick up my kids now, I want to go see my dog, I want to go back home, whatever you are thinking you may want to do later that day, what you want to get, just to be ultra careful, is what's called a minute order. Now, you can obtain this from the clerk at court, and if it's a busy day, they may make you wait around for a bit. But what the minute orders will say is that the restraining order is dissolved. And so if there are any problems, if the petitioner calls the police later that day saying, oh my God, he took the kids, he took the dog, you want to have something from the court that you can show the police so that they don't get confused and think, well, it says it goes until today's date. The date is, we're still in that date, so is it valid? The last thing you want to do is end up getting arrested, having to post bail, which you'll never get back, over a mistake that the police made. So I would recommend sticking around and getting a copy of that minute order if you won. I hope you found this video helpful. Again, if you are planning to represent yourself, make sure that you go down below and check out the course that I have. You get your first class free, which will give you valuable information. I've been doing this for a long time, and I can help you defeat the DVRO. Make sure to subscribe and ring the bell for more.